Hi, everyone. Okay, this is our last project, our last assignment of this semester. I hope you guys are so excited because I am, because this has been a really difficult time for me too, trying to figure out how to do this digital learning, but you guys have done a really good job so far. So, as you can tell, 1960s, hopefully not Carol Baskins. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to do the choice board for this week. It's a little different from the one we did on the Great Depression. So I'm going to go ahead and use my screen to show you exactly what to do. Okay, so as you can see, this is Unit 9. We did not make it to Unit 10, but that's okay. Unit 9 is all about the 50s and 60s, but I'm skipping the 50s a little bit, and we're just going to focus on the 60s because that's like the best decade ever. So here's your choice board. I made this, by the way, in case you're wondering. I made all of this. I didn't buy it. Okay, so 1960s choice board. This is the directions. This is where it's different from the Great Depression choice board. Complete 2 activities from each category. So this one is different because it's categorized. Civil rights movement, the Cold War, and the presidents. So you have the civil rights movement going on. You've got the Cold War, really starting up in the 50s and 60s. And then you have the presidents, okay? There are some stuff that I've added in here that's not really in the standards, but it's probably some of the most interesting things about the 60s and just this time period. So I'll just go over some things that you can do. Starting with the civil rights movement, you've got a letter from a Birmingham jail. This was a letter that was written by Martin Luther King Jr., and he wrote it when he was arrested in Birmingham. It's a very emotional letter, and to be honest with you, the whole letter itself is about 12 pages, but I've only given you like a paragraph to read, and then you just answer about 5 questions about it. This is a document that you're going to have to make a copy and then attach it to the assignment. I know that's annoying, but we just have to do it, okay? If you want to watch something, this is a 45-minute documentary on Selma, and it has some of the best film from that day. This is when you've probably learned about Selma in some of your earlier classes. This is the bridge that they tried to walk across, and the Alabama State Patrol brutally beat these people. And then you've got some questions that go with it. So there's that one. This one right here, this is a digital worksheet about 2 civil rights laws that got passed during this time. If we were in class, you would have known these forwards and backwards. So if you kind of like to do hands-on digital worksheets, this is for you. And then this one is probably my favorite one. This right here it's an Ed puzzle video, and I have figured out the technical difficulties. If you're 5th block, you click on 5th block. If you're 6th block, you click on 6th block. Okay. That will take you to the murder of Emmett Till. And if you had me for government, you probably remember me showing you the picture of Emmett Till on our civil liberties and civil rights unit. Emmett Till was 15 years old from Chicago, and he went down south to visit his uncle. I'm not going to give you too much details, but he was murdered by members of the Ku Klux Klan, and this happened in the 50s, and it kind of sparked the civil rights movement. So this one's definitely my favorite. This one's one of my favorites. So if you have access to the videos, watch that. Okay, the Cold War. The Cold War was not a real theoretical, it was a ideological war, if you will. The Cold War was just us in the Soviet Union. It was communism versus capitalism. Kind of if you guys remember from the first Red Scare, you're going to have this happening again with the second Red Scare. And we were trying to contain communism. So that's what was happening in the 60s. The first president to really deal with the Cold War was President Truman, and this is just a little digital worksheet. It's got a little cartoon that you can look at and a little paragraph to read and some answers. If you are interested in the space race, if you guys are in band and maybe you are interested in the show that you guys did this past year, this is really cool. It's a Google form, but it's got Kennedy's speech that he gave. It gives you some background here. It gives you his speech at Rice University, and this is the speech about him saying we'll get to the moon by the end of the decade. It's got the transcript of it. If you don't want to listen to it, you'd rather read it, it's right here, and then you just scroll down and then just answer these questions. Okay, and you don't have to do anything, just hit submit, and it will record your answers to me. Okay. Read the Korean War. If you guys are interested in the Korean War, this is known as the Lost War. This is when North Korea and South Korea split up. This is an interview of an American soldier. His name is Donald Carter, and he's actually from Georgia. See right here. He's from Georgia, so if you want to just read what he said about the Korean War and then answer these questions in complete sentences, and that's all you have to do there. And I will say, if you guys don't want to read this whole thing, you have the Read Aloud on Google Read and Write. It's that little box that comes up on your Chromebook, and you just highlight it like this, click on the little play button, and it will read it to you. Okay? This one's really interesting. So that one's a cool one. The next one is another ed puzzle about the Vietnam War. So you've got the Vietnam War and the Korean War all happening within the Cold War. Now, Korea and Vietnam, there was actually like true bloodshed. It was a true full-out war. Several of you probably know Vietnam and Korean War veterans. So there's just a little ed puzzle video there. Again, click with your block. Okay, presidents. This is the last block. Something that happened in President Kennedy's term during his administration, probably the most humiliating thing that ever happened to him was the Cuban Missile Crisis. And this is how Cuba kind of gets thrown into our foreign policy. You guys know that we can't go to Cuba today. We can't go visit unless you meet certain criteria. And this is really where it all starts. There was an embargo on Cuba. If you look up Cuba today, they still have cars from like the 50s and 60s because nobody will really truly trade with them. And that really all started with Kennedy. So this is a cool little TED Ed video. Of course, I had to incorporate Kennedy's assassination because you guys love Kennedy's assassination in a weird way, but it's okay. We all do. This is a little web quest. It's a worksheet, and what you have to do is you go to this website, and then you just fill out the questions by the time. So it's going to take you through that day. You know, what is Lee Harvey Oswald doing? You know, what are some unusual things that he does before and while going to work? You know, it goes through that entire day. And then, of course, if you want to watch the video, the Zapruder film, then make sure you can look that up on YouTube if you want. If not, come see me in the fall and I'll show it to you. Okay? So there's that one. If you are interested in creating stuff and designing stuff, you have President Lyndon B. Johnson, LBJ. He becomes president when Kennedy is assassinated. It tells you all the information here about Lyndon B. Johnson, and one of his big programs was the Great Society. Okay, these are some, if you zoom in, these are some of the programs that he had. He wanted to eliminate poverty. He wanted to help the cities. He wanted to help education and discrimination, the environment. So you pick one of these programs, okay? And what you'll do is you will then create a poster, okay? We'll create a little poster in this Google slide. So kind of like an interactive notebook, okay? So this is some of real advertisements. If you've heard of Head Start, the daycare program, that was started by LBJ. Okay. So pick one of these, make a little poster for it, and if you want extra credit, you can go down to the bottom and you can do a detailed paragraph answering how did the Great Society programs impact contemporary American society. Most of these programs that you see in here, we still have, or we're still somehow incorporating. Like, look at this, Medicare. Establish Medicare and Medicaid programs. Okay, this is a huge topic today in politics. Okay, Civil Rights Act. This is a big one here. Outlaw discrimination in public accommodation. So this ended segregation. Okay, the Wilderness Preservation Act. So something about environment, consumer advocacy. So just pick one of these, make a poster. If you want extra credit, write a paragraph answering this question here. Okay. And then the last one, Lyndon B. Johnson, Gulf of Tonkin. Gulf of Tonkin is a body of water on the coast of Vietnam. And if you know anybody who served in the Vietnam War, you can thank Lyndon B. Johnson for that. Because the Gulf of Tonkin accident is what escalated the war. So Vietnam, the amount of troops we had, was like this. And then when the Gulf of Tonkin happened, it skyrocketed. And that's when the draft started. And all these hundreds of people, of men, started getting drafted into Vietnam. So Gulf of Tonkin is a huge topic to learn about when you're learning about Vietnam and President Johnson. So that is a good little Ed puzzle video as well. Okay. So, and then of course, like the last one, make sure you tell me which ones that you completed. So if you did civil rights, read, okay, Cold War, read JFK, presidents, watch Cuban Missile. You can just shorthand it like that. That's fine, just as long as I know which ones that you did. And then, of course, make sure that you make a copy and attach it to the assignment, okay? If it is Edpuzzle or if it is a Google form, you don't have to attach anything. But if it is anything that's got the yellow that says you have to make a copy and attach it, you have to make a copy and attach it, or I won't know that you did it and you won't get the grade for it, okay? Now, this is a test grade, okay? A test grade. So make sure that you complete this, turn it in. Next week, that's it. Next week, I think you guys turn your Chromebooks on the 18th or the 19th. So make sure that you guys have all your missing work in, all your work, because after the 22nd, I'm submitting grades and it is summertime. Yay. Okay. Well, I love you guys. I miss you guys. I hate that your U.S. history experience was like this, but it is what it is. I try to make it fun. So have a good one. Love you guys. Bye.